My name's Tom Droege. I originally came out of Germany in the 1850s. My family did, so apparently it stands for ditch digger, but I don't know about that. But I have been a technologist in North Carolina in a fairly rich environment of high-tech software development, biotech, and a number of other research-related fields with our three big universities here. So I've been involved in technology since the 80s. Built a software company in 1985. I had written 25 information systems out of Duke Medical Center, and I ended up in, among other things, doing software for auction companies starting in 1990, and while running my software development company, and ended up with some subject matter expertise in auctions, wine particularly, and sports memorabilia. So that's where I'm coming from it. And as I mentioned, from North Carolina and Durham, North Carolina, and what's known as the Research Triangle. And one of the things that the Research Triangle is known about is it has a rich uh, culture of entrepreneurship. We were one of the first areas in the country to have a council for entrepreneurship back in the 80s, and diligently and intentionally created an ecosystem for entrepreneurship. And so I've been on these two lanes for my entire career, both as an entrepreneur and as a software developer building systems in philately. And they've always been in the same merged lane. But now what I am here talking about is to the question of how to be connected. I think connectedness is all a part of participating in the ecosystem. So, in a time when we are concerned about the growth of philately or the dearth of it, the decline, I I have been very interested in always talking about ways to make our pastime grow. And there are places in philately where um, stamp collecting is growing. There's a number of auction companies, social media places, eBay dealers, and even Stamp Auction Network. Every day we get anywhere from 5 to 10 new customers at Stamp Auction Network. So I'm totally about growing the ecosystem. And today I want to sort of talk about looking at philately from the perspective of an ecosystem. So one of the key players in our world is a man named Chris Hevley, and he wrote a book called Built the Fort, which I recommend. It's about the Startup Community Builders Field Guide, and he gave a talk. So what I have to present, kind of an encapsulation of just a little piece of something he said, and it's won't take time to go through it, but it is something I think I'd like to think about. I'd like everyone to sort of imagine these concepts and transfer them over to philately. So these are, I think if you see my screen now, these are insights from entrepreneurship. These are 7 characteristics of a healthy ecosystem. And this is taken from an entrepreneurial ecosystem and one of the best here in North Carolina. And so let's talk about each one of them and what do they mean and how do we engage or transfer this thought over into philately. So first one's visible and authentic collaboration. Join someone else's effort, promote someone else's effort, and be visible. Well, how do you do this? How do you honestly collaborate? How do you join someone else's effort? Hard to say. But I'll give you a couple examples. And sort of what the challenge here. When I started Stamp Auction Network, I was at a point in the 90s where we had written a software application that did auctions for we had 25 companies in the US using our software, and we had used database technology to make their job easier and build a database and use just-in-time database publishing to make their lives easier. And so I went to them and said, "Look, we can put all of your auctions up at Stamp on a single place, and then everyone can go to one place and bid on auctions." Now, I could have done that a different way. I mean, I could have chosen a different lane. I could have said, "Hey, I can build you a platform where you can put your auctions up at your own website." And then every auction company would have their own website with their own auction, and who they would just use my software to run a platform. But instead, I saw the opportunity to do it all in one place and build on that. So, a bidder would only have to go to one place and bid on all the auctions. Now, there was some pushback against that because some auction houses felt that, they didn't want their clients to see other people's auctions. So, there are some challenges to these ideas of collaborating, but in the end, it worked out really well because we're growing the entire ecosystem. And in reality, in this particular space, in the auction world, um, it's all about getting the consignments. It's not about getting the customers. The customers invariably find you if you have the material. So next one, founders come first. So in entrepreneurship, we're supposed to focus on the founder, not the not the service provider or the entrepreneurial service organizations. So here again, who are the founders in this world? They are the collectors. So this is basic business, right? I mean, your customer comes first, try to create raving fans, um, make sure that whatever we're doing has them in mind first. I mean, that's why we did Stamp Auction Network, because ultimately it's most convenient for a bidder if they just have to log into one system and bid in any auction. Shared networks. Here's something that we are known for in North Carolina. If if you're a startup and you need an introduction and you ask someone, almost anyone will take a first call from anybody. Um, I think that's true of our ecosystem. I don't know that it's as widely known. I think we feel like you know, if you want to call up if you have an idea, do you call and get to talk to like um, Skylar Rumsey over at Skylar Rumsey Auctions. I mean, he's actually, I believe, very approachable. And if you have a collecting area that you're interested in, I feel like he would take your call. Um, but let's make sure that we are. I mean, we try to do that here at Stamp Auction Network. I pick up the phone. Um, we don't have a receptionist, honestly. Now, that's not can't be true for these larger companies that are 10 or 20 people in their company. But you know, being approachable, uh, I've heard many stories about collectors building relationships with like Richard Ferjola, for instance. And so let's be approachable. Let's take that first call. Um, let's be a mentor to new collectors. Uh, next characteristic is to be inclusive. I don't know, if I mean, I guess it's an honest question. Are we inclusive to probably the biggest place is, the beginning collector? Are we really that friendly to take time with the person that's totally new? Whether it's at a dealer show or in a stamp club or at an auction. I know I get a lot of basic questions about people at auction for the first time, and I try to help them. But one of the other ways to do that is make resources available. We have a lot of resources available at Stamp Auction Network that guide you through, how to how to understand the auction world because it's a separate world. Uh, but are we, we are we inclusive to new collectors? Are we inclusive to women collectors? Are we inclusive to, you know, people of diverse backgrounds? Next one, show up. So in the entrepreneurial world, this means, we show up for other people's events. And I think this would be, I've got to believe that, we have so many great clubs out there. A lot of them have gone on Zoom. Um, there's opportunity there for uh, the stamp clubs to, invite other people to their club and get other people interested in their collecting area. Storytelling, I guess I spelled intentionally wrong there. Here we go. Check that. Intentionally. A lot of people say storytelling is the way to communicate, interest, passion for your collecting area. It's a story about things that make things interesting. Um, and the last one here, learning how to put the community over your individual interests and to serve the best of the community. So these are just some ideas, things that we take from the entrepreneurial space and consider how to apply them to philately. And the main way that we've done that at Stamp Auction Network is to create something called Philately.Live. And I would like to just take a moment to, as we continue this conversation, talk about Philately.Live and what its purpose is and how it contributes to the ecosystem building in many different ways. So, um, ecosystems are, as I will describe in this deck, I'll get to kind of describing what an ecosystem is. Maybe I'll just jump to that. Um, so here's an ecosystem map. It's a mapping of the organizations, the resources, and the publications and the events in a ecosystem, which for us, we're talking about the ecosystem of philately. So what is an ecosystem map? It's a mapping of all of the entities in an ecosystem. And for philately, these are your societies, organizations like auction companies, dealers, foundations, clubs, marketplaces, publications, exhibiting, museums, things like that, combined with news and events. So we've tried to create, well, let's just this concept of relationships or everything. The idea of ecosystem map is kind of born out of the environmental movement in the 60s. We learned, like that a forest is an ecosystem. I remember learning that, as a fifth grader or something like that, that everything is tied together. And we know that about living organisms, but it's also true about these other ecosystems like, say, philately. And so, what are the problems with ecosystems? Well, often there's just so much information that it's not a question of accessing as so much as to being overwhelmed by it. And there's so much information, but acting on it is another matter. The other thing that happens in these environments, looking at these ecosystems, is that because they're so extensive, people tend to get stuck in what they know. So you end up in what's called a silo. So you collect one thing and that's all you know about, and your world is complicated enough that you don't venture outside of it. But that's what an ecosystem map can help you do. Uh, is go beyond that. So, what is it? How do we do this? Well, we discover all the resources and put them in a database with keyword mapping, and we collect everything without being biased. Um, we get the breadth of the assets, and we create analytics to understand what we've got, and we create a way to make them updatable. One of the challenges to building ecosystem maps, because I have been actually doing this for 40 years. In the old way, you had to create a database and you had to create a form to collect the data. You had to send it out. You had to get people to send it back to you, put it back in, create the platform. So the challenge has has been building them is a big enough challenge itself, but managing it is where it gets a bit overwhelming. So we've created Philately.Live, and the idea is this is a place. Philately.Live is kind of like what Google was back in the 1995. They promised to be a connecting site and not to be a content site. It turns out that Google right now is actually kind of pivoting away from that. So now if you go do a Google search, you'll often get some AI response, and they'll answer your question there without giving you the organic links to go find something else. So the value proposition of an ecosystem map is that it's not about the content, it's about creating the connections. So you can do a search for something, and once you find it, you leave. And that's the entire purpose of it. I mentioned that it's difficult to update these ecosystems, but now this one allows you to update your own content. And ecosystem maps have intent, inherent in them the opportunity to go viral, I guess is the word you might say. Um, Certain things in our past have network effects. If you are a startup company, the number one thing that you can hope is that whatever you're producing has network effects. That means that once you hit a threshold, say once you achieve like 20% market share, then everyone has to have it. And so an example of a network effect is a telephone. You know, telephone is only good two or three or four or 10 people is not good for anybody. But once you reach a certain place of market um, capture, then everyone has to have a telephone. And it happened with the iPhone, it happened with the internet. And so if we can create a platform that uh, meets the needs of even 20% of philately, then it won't be very long before 95% of philately is using it. So in that light, what we've done is to create not just one ecosystem map, but create ecosystem maps in multiple collecting areas. So we have actually rolled out 4 eco maps, philately, sports, coins, and wines, and we're looking at doing 3 others. But these all build on each other. So the idea that you're a collector, and the other people have done it. A lot of auction houses, or some auction houses, are built on this premise. They're not just in one, certainly Christie's and Sotheby's. They have all the different departments to serve all kinds of collecting needs. But you know, there are collectors that collect in more than one space, and philately and coins are one of the areas. So the rest of this presentation is kind of just about how to uh, claim your organization and all that. So I'm just going to jump to, in our remaining time, is talk about Philately.Live and how it works. So for instance, if you go to Philately.Live, you'll see that there's a landing page that kind of gives you a glimpse of what's inside. We've got a number of organizations that have sponsored the site, so they're featured. And we use stamp collecting videos to uh, create a weekly mailing that goes out and says, here's some great new content out there on the internet. And then we highlight it here, and people can click on these and go look at the internet, look at these videos. Newest is just the latest organizations that have put themselves on the platform. We have all kinds of resources. We've got societies, publications, auction companies, stamp dealers, stamp shows, clubs, events, and news. So that's what an ecosystem is. So these are the components as it works out in philately. So if I'm looking for something, say let's go with I'm a new collector or I'm a seasoned collector, it doesn't matter. But say I collect Mexico and I find that I've kind of found myself in a silo. I want something new. Um, or at least I want to find out other organizations that meet my collecting interests. So I can just go here, type in Mexico, and up pops 18 organizations across the entire world that you ought to know about if you're collecting Mexico. So there's an auction house. Rumsey is known for good Mexico in their auctions. The Mexico Elmhurst Philatelic Society, MEPSI, is known. There's a number of other um, Central American and Mexican dealers, Jalisco Philatelico. There's Arizona and New Mexico Postal History Society. So here's a way an ecosystem map of philately can help you find something. Now, say you want to expand your interest to, let's just say, I'm just going to say you collect inverted. Oh, here's the Society of Inverted Jenny Owners. I wouldn't even thought of such a that. Here's a Stephen Kripp is a rare stamp dealer who apparently does inverts. Let's see. Let's go to another collecting area. Let's see. I did the export. What else? What else did I do? Colombian, British Columbia. So it's just a keyword search map. I can narrow things down. So if I was doing Mexico, for instance, I could say of these, which are auction houses. So those are the auction houses. I could say of these, which are the dealers. So let me show you something else I had pre-set up. All right. Now, one of the ways that you use a tool like this to create connections is to be able to support some of the organizations that are set up to do that. So, for instance, the Internet Philatelic Dealer Association is like the PTS, and I can go to PTS and show you this, but here's a way for an organization to put themselves on the map and then to show all the associated organizations. So these are all the member organizations of PTS. Now, the other thing you can do is show you the resources that an organization provides. So if I go to American Philatelic Society, there it is. So I click on the American Philatelic Society. Now, often organizations have areas that are departmentalized or, so for instance, the APS has a number of these. Look at all these things that they do. They've got the Luff Award. They've got a number of awards, but if you wanted to contact them about advertising or expertising or estate services, these are all separate aspects of the APS. Or even looks like they also have some content presentations. So, and one of the things that we've used to promote and create interest in Philately is to post digital resources at Philately.Live. So if I click on digital resources, I'll see a whole bunch of videos that are posted all over. Many of them are at um, YouTube and all, but there's all over. Well, let's see, there's 95 sort of vetted. We think these are pretty good videos. This one is a great one. He's here at PTS, Bill Barrel. This was Oh, this is his valuing a stamp collection, which was well done. He also has a great one under exploring stamps. So you just wander around it just like you're on the internet. Um, let's see. Yeah. Bill Barrow had that video where they soaked a strip of four penny blacks off the cover at a PTS show a few years ago. But anyway, last thing I just want to show you is the events calendar. So we welcome everyone to go look up your organization, see if you're on Philately.Live. If you are, so here's our event calendar.
There are more virtual Stampex talks coming to YouTube. Subscribe to our channel now so you don't miss out.
It's easy to claim your content and join Philately.Live, claim your content, and then take over your content. It's as simple as, I go back to Skylar Rumsey's. I can't show it to you on this one because I'm an administrator. But if you go to your own organization, over on under this tab right here, it'll say claim organization. You just click on that and you can claim your content, and then you can take over your content. And that's one of the aspects of successful ecosystems is they're distributed, meaning there's no central hierarchy for control. And this is what we're doing at Philately.Live. This is a distributed approach to putting this data on the internet. You can put your own organization on there just by going to organizations and clicking add organization. If you already have an organization and you want to add a resource to it, you just go to resources and you choose add resource. There it is. If you have an event that you want to put up there at Philately.Live, then you just go to add event. And like right now, we've got a pretty good event calendar that shows you events around the world, auctions, group meetings, shows, expos. So that's what we're contributing to the ecosystem. And I think that's where I'm going to stop.
There are more virtual Stampex talks coming to YouTube. You know what to do. Click subscribe now so you don't miss out. See you soon. We hope to see you at our next Stampex show, at Virtual Stampex or in person in London.